Welcome to Secrets of a Seven-Figure Coach, the podcast for coaches, consultants, and creative entrepreneurs who want to hit between $100K and $1 million in annual revenue. I'm Beck Keane, your host and business mentor. On this podcast, I'm sharing the mindset, strategy, and energetics required to create a multi-six-figure business and beyond. Before becoming a coach, I grew 3 successful businesses. I'm an award-winning business owner who built and exited $1 million consulting firm and an industry-leading app that won awards back in 2016. And that all happened before I started my own coaching business, which has since generated over $2 million in lifetime revenue in part-time hours. I'm taking you behind the scenes from my very first 10K month to my very first 100K month. I'll also bring in coaches and consultants who have scaled their own coaching businesses so you can learn real-world tools and strategies from others who have walked the path. If you are a coach, consultant, or creative entrepreneur looking to 2 to 4x your revenue while also having an incredibly rich personal life, this podcast is for you. Hello, dear one, and welcome to today's episode of Secrets of a Seven-Figure Coach. I'm Beck Keane, your host, your coach for the next 30 to 40 minutes. I am so excited to be having this conversation with you today. We are going to be diving into the topics of hosting and selling masterminds. This is a topic that is so near and dear to my heart because Masterminds has been my primary offer since very, very early days inside my business. I'm going to be sharing the different iterations that I have personally had of the various masterminds that I've hosted over the last 7 years so that you can take and gain some insight from my experience, apply it to yourself. So whether you are on the newer end of your journey as an entrepreneur, as a coach, as a consultant, maybe as a healer, even service providers, right? Like there's actually no box that you need to fit in order to host your own mastermind. So whether you're on the earlier version of your journey and you're a little bit newer to the game, this episode will give you some of the building blocks to think about. And my hope is also that this episode will help those of you who already have a mastermind, who have hosted masterminds, and you're looking to up your game. You're wanting to tweak and shift things, really up level that mastermind, maybe change the pricing, change who you're attracting. My goal with today's episode is that no matter where you are with your mastermind journey, you will get something from this conversation. Before we fully dive in, if this episode is useful to you and if you want to go deeper with this conversation and you want more information on how to host, how to sell your mastermind, I do have a 2-part training, which is essentially 2 full hours of trainings on masterminds, which you can grab in the show notes. The 100K Mastermind Masterclass is $222. And I have had so many people take this Mastermind Masterclass, which I will again link in the show notes, and say how much it has changed how they view Mastermind and really help them put theirs out there into the world. So as we dive in, I can almost hear people's wheels spinning and all the objections that you may have for hosting your own mastermind. And I really want to crack those before we dive in. I want to dispel some myths about what masterminds are, what they are not, and especially help you see that there's not any certain place that you need to be in your business before you can start hosting your mastermind. And there's also nothing that needs to change except for you and your own thought process. If you already have a mastermind and you want to shift it, tweak it, raise the bar, and maybe have different boundaries, have different pricing, like legitimately, you can implement this at any time. So the fact of the matter is, you don't have to be at a certain place to host a mastermind. I mean, a mastermind is really in its most pure and simple form. It's a gathering of people who are collaborating, who are sharing ideas, who are getting together in the same room, in person, online. We're going to say same room. Many of us are probably more likely to be on in a Zoom room when I'm talking about this, but you can have different hybrids of masterminds, virtual plus in-person stuff. really it's just a collection of people who are sharing ideas, being vulnerable, being present, learning, growing, shifting, evolving, transforming together. So you don't necessarily need to be a highly experienced coach in order to host a mastermind. You do need to know how to hold group space. You do need to know how to balance the different energies inside of a room. And this is something that you may need to gain through experience. In fact, it very likely is. The way that we get better at anything is by doing it, by practicing it. And so when I was first starting my business, I was like, this is something I want to do. I want to have people together. I want to, bring the energy of multiple, and I'm going to speak about women because I primarily work with women. I mean, let's say 95% of my clients are women. I wanted to bring women together inside a space where this idea of like evolution and transformation could happen collectively. And so at the time, I knew the power of one-to-one coaching because I started with one-to-one coaching. I also attended a bunch of retreats through my own spiritual journey. And what I noticed and observed in being in spaces with other people was that my transformation and my evolution was heightened and what's that word I'm looking for? I want to say rapid was was heightened and made faster when I was in connection and collaboration with other people. So especially as we're shifting outdated beliefs, rewiring conditioning, as many of us do as coaches, my own personal growth was enhanced and so much faster, right? You hear somebody else say something and then you feel it within your body, and so it's this complete like up leveled energy. And so I actually had the sense that if I put all my one-to-one clients together in the same room and we had group conversations, that the transformation would happen faster than the transformation was happening in a one-to-one setting. And that's exactly what I have experienced over the last 7 years. So my point of this is like, don't wait. Yes, you need to, have some basic like space holding skills. Those skills will deepen over time. If you're a coach, if you have experience in your area, like I bet this is something that you can add to your offer stack, and you will have so much joy bringing these people together and gathering them in the same place. So my point with this is like, don't hold yourself back and think you have to be at a certain place in order to begin hosting a mastermind. I see a lot of people holding themselves back through fear. And if we're speaking to a more experienced coach right now, there might be this energy of like, you want to upgrade your mastermind, you want to enhance the experience, you maybe want to up level the types of clients that you're attracting, maybe you want to increase, the price of the mastermind. Perhaps you want to give people less access to you or more access to you. So there might be some shift that you're wanting to make. And whenever we do anything that's new or different, whether it's start our first mastermind or tweak an existing mastermind, of course, there's going to be some energy, some thoughts, some beliefs that you're going to come up against that could threaten to hold you back if you do in fact buy into them. And if I have one main message for you, it's like, you've got to question your beliefs. You have to ask yourself, is that belief true? Do you know it 100% to be true? What's the opposite of that belief? And is it possible that the opposite of that belief is in fact true? And so, thoughts like you're not a good enough coach to hold an expansive space, you're afraid no one will join, you're afraid no one will sign up, you're afraid that maybe you'll leave people behind, right? If you shift or change your existing mastermind. Those are all things that are really normal to come up, but they should not be what holds you back. That your thoughts are going to come. Whether or not you buy into your thoughts and you believe your thoughts, that's completely optional. And so what I know too for myself is that hosting and holding masterminds, yes, it's been powerful for my clients. It's also been really powerful for me because as I host masterminds, and as you'll hear, I'm going to share with you shortly some of the different types of masterminds I've hosted. I've had to up level myself. And we really attract a different caliber of clients every time we up level. And so it makes sense. Like if your offers never change, then that means you're staying the same. And if you're a coach or a consultant, like you're always growing and you're always changing. So it makes sense that your offers are going to change. It makes sense that your mastermind is going to change and evolve. And so I learned so much about myself, even like, okay, client projections as an example. So someone who joins a mastermind and then asks to leave a mastermind and tries to put that on you and tries to make it about you versus that person really owning and embodying what her own projections. And so I've had to learn, for example, how to navigate client projections. I've had to learn how to navigate boundaries. People who perhaps didn't buy Voxer access, didn't buy one-to-one access, but then they're messaging me in a one-to-one scenario when they didn't pay for that. And then having to uphold that standard, not just for myself, but for them to model that and to model what good client coach behavior is and upholding and respecting my own boundaries for both of our sake. So having a mastermind will keep you for sure on your edge and it'll keep you playing a bigger game. And the bigger the game that you play, ah, it's so rewarding because as you expand and you transform your own self and you build a business that has like a deeper capacity, you're increasing the capacity within you as well, but you will just attract the most amazing people. I mean, I've had the most amazing people join my masterminds. And so I really consider it to be like such a gift. And I want you to have that gift in your life, in your business as well. So lesson number one is really like noticing what your thoughts are. I mean, I could talk about this. This could be the topic of the episode, but I really want you to get some golden nuggets from here in terms of like putting your own mastermind together. But to notice what your own objections are, notice what your thoughts and your beliefs are around that, and to question the shit out of them. The second thing that I want you to tune into is how is it that you want to show up? When you think about how you would like to be leading clients and leading people, what does that look like for you? So, as many of us are trained to think about our clients and to think about our ideal client avatar and understand their pain points, their desires, their vision, and then create an offer for them, that's amazing. And 100% I agree with that. And there's a step before that. And the step before that is for you to understand, how do you want to show up? What is in your highest service? Like, how does your soul and how does the magic and the wisdom of your soul want to express themselves? And so a few different ways you can think about this is like, some of you listening, maybe you love slides and maybe you love putting together a slide deck and maybe you love teaching and maybe you want to teach people a specific process and you want to take people, from A to Z, and there's steps and there's stages and there's things that they need to achieve before moving to the next thing. Okay. Good to know, right? It's like good to know if you have this more teacher energy, and the teacher energy may or may not come with slides. Being a teacher and like teaching and leading people doesn't necessarily mean you have to use slides. I'm just using that as an example. So there might be this like teacher vibe in you. And you want to think about that in terms of, in my opinion, your mastermind should be like your highest potential. So your highest potential is matched to how do you really want to show up and serve? In what way are you most fueled? What does that look like for you? And so what I learned about myself is like, I actually really don't love teaching with slides. And I love teaching a little bit differently, which is through like life experience and stories and modeling. And I really like people to learn their own lessons. And so for me, being more in a coach or a mentor mode is my more favorite place to be. And we'll dive into that as we get through this podcast. So thinking about how you want to show up, is it the teacher vibe, right? Do you want to teach people something? Do you want to lead people through a specific process? Are you more a coach energy where you actually want to coach people and pull wisdom from them and help people access their own wisdom? Or maybe you are a more of a mentor energy, and a mentor energy is also this really beautiful place to be where you are helping people grow and evolve through your own lessons, and then they're applying that to themselves. So they're looking at what you have done, you're sharing how you've done something, and you're less teaching it and you're more mentoring it and saying, like, hey, here's what I learned, and here's how I process information. Now over to you. How are you going to implement this? And what do you want to do with this? And the last thing I'll say about this particular teacher, coach, mentor energy and thinking about how you are best wanting to show up is you can absolutely have like a mix of these. You don't have to pick one. I'm not saying you need to pick one. It's just like think about that and then think about what that container is. And as you're thinking about what the container is, you can reflect on whether there's an actual process to the work you want to do with people. Are you leading people through something? Is there like a starting point and then there's an end point and you're moving people through something like this A to Z vibe, more like the teacher energy that I was speaking about? Or are you meeting people where they're at, which is more, again, of the coach vibe? And then you're coaching them through, in which case it almost doesn't matter where people are when they join your mastermind, as long as them being in the room is going to benefit them and hearing from each other is going to benefit everybody who's inside that room. As my business has evolved, I have tended to sort of separate a little bit the two things. Now, this isn't right or wrong. This may or may not be for you. This is just, I'm just sharing my experience, right? Is for me, where I kind of draw that line and that differentiating point between, say, a group coaching program and a mastermind is inside of a group coaching program, I would embody more of a teacher vibe. I would bring the energy of I am leading you through something. I have something to teach you. And maybe along with that is some set curriculum. And so a mastermind to me, and again, there's hybrids, like you can do whatever the F you want. A mastermind is more people show up with what they have and they are accessing me as a coach, as a mentor to gain their own wisdom, to get access to my wisdom. And from that place or with that lens, there doesn't necessarily need to be any curriculum. And so the separation, how I have created that for my own business over the years is I think of group coaching more as curriculum based. I'm leading you. There's a start and there's a stop, and I'm moving you through a process. I'm moving you through a set of lessons, and we need to do A, B, C, and D in order for you to be successful inside this group coaching program. Versus a mastermind is more of what I would call like a self-led space, in that people show up. And this is exactly what I tell people. I'm like, if you want me to lead you and teach you XYZ, come into this group coaching program. If you would like to be coached and mentored by me and you want to bring your own things to the table and you want my insight and you want me to help you move forward through that, come into my mastermind. And so a mastermind is what, like, more what I would call self-led space, in that the client is leading themselves. Yes, you are also leading them because you're coaching and you're mentoring, you're doing whatever you do inside that mastermind. It's a slightly different energy, in my opinion, than say for sure a course, but also a group coaching program where there's going to be some level of like you teaching something, you bringing the curriculum. So in group coaching, I'm going to bring the topics. I'm going to say, hey, these are the 5 things you need to be successful. I'm going to teach you these 5 things, and then I'm going to help you implement them. Whereas a mastermind is you're going to come into this space and you're going to say, hey, Becky, this is where I'm at. This is what my business looks like, or this is where I'm stuck with XYZ. What do you think? What are my options? Can you help me get clarity and move forward? Or like, this is how much, money I've created. This is where I'm stuck. Something's blocking me. And then I'll help coach you through that and give you some mentorship to help you get to the next level. So there's really like 2 different vibes. And I think it's important for you to know about that. And neither is right, neither is wrong. But the question is like, what is it you want to do with people? Do you want to lead them through a process, or do you more want to do what I would call hot seat coaching, which is literally like when I open my mastermind calls, it's like, okay, who has a question? Who wants coaching? let's get started. I am not necessarily teaching any particular thing. Now, with that being said, and I'm going to sort of slow down on talking about group coaching programs because this podcast is really about masterminds. With that being said, when I'm coaching the different people in their hot seats, there's absolutely learning and there's lessons and there's storytelling. And I might share, about a client story or about something that I did, or I might say, if the person had a question about sales or offers, there's going to be many lessons and many trainings in there within the hot seat coaching. But it's not like I'm teaching sales or I'm teaching offers or I'm teaching a specific thing within that topic. It's not a master class and it's not a course. For me, again, just for me, right or wrong, it's pure hot seat coaching. And how I have gotten to this place with this is how I run my own masterminds is I've actually done it so many different ways. And that's what I want to talk about now is the different ways that I have hosted masterminds over the years and how that has led me to this place. So one of my first iterations of a mastermind, in fact, the very first mastermind that I ran was primarily run off a Facebook group. I did I never know, do you say bi-weekly or bi-monthly? I did twice monthly Facebook Lives in which I would show up on my own time during my own schedule and I would teach and let me back up here. Like I was brand new. I was a brand new coach, but I had a lot to say and I had a lot to share. And I was pretty quickly moving from like healer, spiritual life coach over to more of a business coach. And I've actually never really loved that title or identified too strongly with that title, but that's the best way I could explain it is I quickly saw how I could help people with their businesses through the lens of personal growth and transformation. And I had insights into sales and offers and money mindset, for example. And this is the type of stuff that I would start teaching through my Facebook Lives within this closed Facebook community for just my mastermind people. And it might have been things that I was learning, lessons that I was learning that I thought would be beneficial to the group. I've always been extremely open to, questions and feedback from the people inside my masterminds. And so this has been, I'm like really tuned into what they need and where they're stuck and what they desire. And so I would do Facebook Lives in order essentially to like teach them and also answer some of their questions that I was seeing come up. For example, if everyone was getting stuck on sales or how to put together their offers, I would do a little mini training on that through this Facebook Live. And that first one was I would say was quite community based in that it was putting a bunch of people together and they were supporting each other. We were celebrating each other. I was again a brand new coach. I didn't, pretend to be super seasoned or anything like that. I just knew I had this stuff to share and I was really good. Like from the very beginning, I was really good at sales. I was really good at offers. I had also worked with several coaches who had taught me a lot in that. And I wanted to share that with people because I knew offers, or I had seen from my own experience anyway, that offers, having good offers and knowing how to sell was like instrumental to having a multi six figure business. Like if I hadn't have known how to do those two things, then my business wouldn't have been where it was as quickly as it was. So that first version of a mastermind included these weekly or bi-weekly lives, as well as a monthly group coaching call. And so on the group coaching call, I called it group coaching call back then. And I typically now call it like hot seat call. People would come on to the group coaching call and it was like a Q&A or coaching and people would raise their hand. People would jump in, ask questions. I would give them feedback. Sometimes I would lead them through a meditation or a short group process. And that's where people would get like individual customized support. One way to think about a mastermind that's been really helpful for me is to think about it's actually one-to-one support in a group setting. And this is really good advice or really good insight for those of you that have a lot of one-to-one clients and you want to move, even if you don't have a lot of one-to-one clients. But people will tend to ask for one-to-one coaching because they think that's what is going to get them results. And so if you switch your language up a bit and you let them know that within the mastermind, they're going to get this one-to-one attention, but it's going to be inside of a group container. And so not only are they going to learn the coaching and insight that they receive, but they're going to benefit from hearing that from everybody else inside the container. So that was my first iteration. And we ran it off a Facebook group and I undercharged it. I absolutely over delivered. People inside that group, like brand new entrepreneurs, were selling 5K packages, 10K packages, selling out the retreats. I mean, it was so phenomenal to me that I could put a bunch of women inside a group like this together and that their income would change so rapidly that I was immediately sold on hosting masterminds. Now, because I had undercharged the first time, I didn't make the mistake the second time. And I think I went from charging $1,000 for my mastermind. My masterminds have typically been 6 months, but I've also done shorter ones. I've also done longer ones. I charged $1,000 for 6 months. The next one was $7,500. The one after that was $10,000. I've played with everything, recently between 10,000 and 15, even 17,500, $20,000, including some one-to-one support. And so I want you to know that like, you don't have to incrementally work your way up. You can go from $1,000 to $10,000 or whatever the number is that feels aligned for you. That's, in line with your own values. That's a reflection of the value of the work. And I also have to say, like, you have to make money. Like this isn't a hobby. You need to price your offers in line with your revenue goals and also in line with how much money your own personal business needs to make. This idea that you have to work your way up and pay your dues, like that's made up. It's someone made that up. It doesn't have to be true. So you can literally like quantum leap if that's what you want to do. And so after hosting my first one, for me, it was I needed to prove to myself that I could hold space for a group. What I wish I had done, and I regretted this, was I wished I had made it a shorter container, like 3 months, because I immediately saw that I had completely undercharged for it. And had I hosted a shorter space, I would have learned that lesson a little bit quicker and then gone out and charged more for the next one. However, you know what? Like hindsight's 2020. And also I did what I did. It's like we learn these lessons only by doing them. So it's absolutely no regrets. It's just consider that if you're testing something, it can sometimes be good to test a shorter time period than going for like a longer 6 or 12 month commitment, because then you're obviously committed to doing that thing. So the second mastermind that I hosted was more theme based. And so, yes, it was 7,500 for the 6 months. So it went from that 1,000 to 7,500 for 6 months. This time I had themes. So I had monthly themes. I was starting to get to a place where I was understanding what people who were in my orbit, mainly coaches, healers. That's honestly, people ask me how I chose my niche. I didn't. My niche chose me. Like people came to me and I could see like these common elements and these common themes with the people who were coming. And then I could also see what the things were emerging that they needed to learn in order to get to their next level, and also what it was that I wanted to teach. And so that mastermind, we had a monthly theme. And within that, this was a little bit of a hybrid example. I would do these master classes, whether I recorded them on Zoom and then sent them out, or whether I actually can't remember exactly how I did that. But and maybe what I did was teach it live and then invite people into that call. But I would do like a teaching class where I'm teaching you something. And then we also had hot seat calls. So I would have done like one teaching on one topic a month, probably left some time for a Q&A. And then I had these two hot seat calls where people would come in and they would get their specific coaching, not necessarily on that theme, but because I had taught on a specific theme, the questions tended to be around that theme. So that was the second iteration. And I'm not going to go through all my iterations. I kind of want to give you like this range that I've done. An iteration that I had in the last couple of years, it's so interesting reflecting back on my journey and on myself and really how I've grown through some of this is that I got to a place having hosted like probably three or four masterminds, maybe even five by this point in my journey. And I really wanted to build something robust. And that's the best word I can find for what I was feeling at the time. Like I felt like I really wanted to host space for more people. I was wanting like because originally it would be 10 to between 8 and 12 women that would be inside my masterminds. And sometimes I'd run two a year because they were always, just 6 months. And the just like side note, like this was my main revenue source as a brand new coach. So you have 10 people, 10K each, that's 100K. You run that twice a year, that's 200K. And that's only two or three calls a month, and you're making $200,000. Like, this is an in my mind, this is an absolute no brainer for anybody out there listening. It's like you can instantly add hundreds of thousands of dollars to your revenue by doing this. Now, add on some one to one clients, add on some other offers if you like, and you have the makings for like a very scalable multi six figure into the seven figure business without any fancy funnels, without needing a big team, without needing big tech, right? So to me, it's just such a no-brainer offer for anybody, for no matter where you are, no matter where you are at in your journey. So I got to this place where I wanted to hold space for more people. I felt like, actually kind of felt like I needed to, I'm going to say like legitimize myself. And so I ran a mastermind for about a year where I would say it had all the bells and whistles. I mean, I had a full on launch strategy. I had a copywriter write all my launch copy for me, my sales page. I spent, tens of thousands of dollars on this launch. And I also spent quite a bit of money on bringing in guest experts, guest mentors. I had an accountability coach. I had a money coach. I had a copywriter in the program, and everyone got access to these people within the program. Now, I believe that iteration had a specific money goal around it. So I was, trying to lead people to a certain level of income. And so I brought in the support people and the guest experts and the guest coaches that I thought this particular group of people needed in order to get to that next level. Now, I can no judgment or shame to myself here, but like I can actually see now looking back is that I was probably giving more than what people needed, and it probably wasn't as streamlined as it could have been. But this is how we learn, right? It's like you try things on, you see what you like doing. And what I realized through that iteration of my mastermind was that people joined for me. People joined to be coached and mentored by me, Becky, not by the other coaches that I had brought in. And this was nothing against the other coaches. Like every coach I've brought into my groups and my masterminds are amazing and super helpful. And I have testimonials, for these specific coaches and in how much they contributed and helped. And I also learned that I didn't need to put as much into the offer that I had. And so maybe just having some guest experts come in, might have been sufficient for that. And again, it's like, you try these different things and you see what you like. And it worked really well at the time. And then I evolved and I shifted and I changed. I wanted to do it differently. So that, again, that iteration also we had accountability challenges, virtual retreats. There was an entire library set up on Kajabi for people, like a portal, a login area. There was training modules. And it was, in reflection, it was just more than how I like to host a mastermind. And so I'm giving you these examples to see sort of like that breadth and that range of what you can have for a mastermind. And now here I am, let's say 8 years into my business, 8 years of experience of hosting masterminds. And what I have come back to, I was sharing with my team member the other day, as I said, I want the mastermind just to be pure mastermind. And for me, what that looks like now is it's 2 hot seat calls a month where you come on, you let me know where you're at, where you would like support, and I give you that coaching and that support, that coaching and that mentorship. And then we also have a group coaching Voxer Day where you can ask any follow-up questions inside a group chat, and I answer, and you also gain and benefit from other people's questions and answers. I am not even doing a Slack. Slack is, where you can keep in touch with each other. I'm not even doing that for my current or my next mastermind, depending on when you listen to this podcast. And yeah, so like no, I don't do Facebook groups anymore. To me, the value of the mastermind and like people in my experience, people joining a mastermind actually don't need or want all these training videos and access to all these resources. Even when I spend dozens of hours creating members areas for people in masterminds, 99% they don't use it. And so it's like lost energy. And then they tend to like question whether they should have used it or not. So for me, where I've landed is a mastermind is pure hot seat coaching. And I am absolutely in love and I adore that model where I can just show up as me, Becky Keene, the coach, the mentor, and I get to coach these incredibly powerful human beings. I get to witness them in their vulnerability, help them access their own insights, give them advice and mentorship in their own business and their own, growth. Because the work I do, honestly, like you might think it's strategic and sure, there's some strategy involved in terms of like, what should your offers be? And what should your content look like in order to attract ideal clients? How do you do sales? How do you scale? How do you double, triple, quadruple your income? What does your team look like? Those are all strategic pieces that we talk about. But 80% of the work, 80% of what happens, at least in my mastermind, is you confronting what it is that's holding you back and you moving through that. And you moving through that at lightning speed because of the group energy, because you're hearing and learning from other people. It's about moving through upper limits, reprogramming your mind. Like when you get in a room full of other powerful women who are all doing things outside of the box and stretching their edges. There's a quote, oh, what's his name? Hardy, the 10x guy. 10x is easier than 2x. He says something like, the unreasonable becomes reasonable. And that's exactly what happens in a mastermind room is you have people who are all wanting to get to the next level. And because they're put in a container with other people who are trying to do the same things, they feel less alone and they see the potential. And of course, there's going to be people at different, and I don't even really love the word level, but there's going to be people at different levels and at different stages of their journey. And people get to learn from each other. And it's not even that there's like the smartest or the richest or the further along person in the room, because honestly, in a mastermind, you actually want to keep a beginner's mind. You want to have an open mind and see what you hadn't been able to see before. And so all of this together has brought me to where I am now, which is that in its simplest of forms, and I think simple is better than complicated. Personally, for me, I love hosting a mastermind that is pure, this like magic. I call it pure coaching, pure hot seat coaching. And if you could see my face, you would see that I'm smiling because that's what I just love to do. And I also really love like guiding and leading. And so I have a different space for that. I have a place where I get to be more in my teacher energy and more in my I'm going to tell you what to do energy. I love both. And I've just come to learn how I like to lead those spaces differently and what that looks like for myself. And as I bring this podcast to a close, is like my biggest advice to you is you're going to want to overthink this. And I would encourage you not to. You actually just need to try it. You need to get yourself out there. You need to put a few people in a room together You could ask your one-to-one clients, you could do direct outreach. And I don't think I'll get into selling of a mastermind inside this actual podcast. You can go and purchase my 100K mastermind masterclass for $222 if you like, because you'll be able to learn more about the sales process there. You want to try it out. Get a few people together in a room, reach out to your one-to-one clients, talk about it on Instagram, gather this group together, see how you like leading, coaching, mentoring, understand what that energy is like so that you can discern for a future round. Do you want to keep it more pure mastermind and hot seat coaching, or do you want to have some teaching leadership component to it with curriculum, and or maybe it's a hybrid like I did in a few iterations? For those of you that are listening who already have a mastermind, and for those of you that really want to upgrade your existing mastermind, I could say a lot of things about this. And I think the one thing that I really want to lead you with is you are ready. You might be thinking that you need to have a different audience. You might be thinking that you're not advanced enough, or you might be worried that people aren't going to sign up, or they're not going to buy, or that you'll offend people if you change things. And we don't grow unless we're uncomfortable. And so for those of you, that are more seasoned and you're looking to expand and shift and evolve and up level your own existing mastermind, I could talk to you about the strategic components about that and about what some of that looks like, which is really about, onboarding, offboarding, setting boundaries, giving people the option for a VIP upgrade. Like there are some really fun strategic things that you can do when you're wanting to shift and evolve your mastermind space. But at the end of the day, it's actually about an internal shift. And it's about an internal upgrade. And it's about really believing in your brilliance and you tuning in. So I'm really speaking to those of you who have been around for a while here. Like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you know who you are. And you are a effing badass. You've been at this for long enough. You have so much wisdom to share. People are so effing lucky to be in your orbit and to be in your room and to gain the wisdom. Like whether you have 5, 10, or 20 years of experience doing what it is that you do, you can help people lightning, warp speed, like jump through oh my gosh, what is that in the movies when they like jump from one universe to the other? I wish I could think of the word. Anyway, you guys are going to like DM me on Instagram and tell me what that is. Warp speed or something, when they go through the portals. Anyway, your experience and your mentorship helps people do that. And that's worth really good money. That is high ticket shit right there. Like, do not undercharge for that. Do not undersell yourself. And the fact is, like, for me, I have helped not even just hundreds, I've helped thousands of women so far inside my own business. I know offers. I know offers like I know offers. I know offers like I know Starbucks, and I know Starbucks, okay? I know offers like I know my children, and I know my children. I know what they're thinking the moment I look on their faces. So the fact that I can look at someone's offer stack and know immediately we needs to shift, like that's worth a lot of money. And the same goes for you. And so you take this and you embody the brilliance that you have and you charge accordingly for that. And that's the upgrade. And so that's the internal upgrade that you need to make. And as you make this internal upgrade within yourself, your space will shift, and that will be so, so powerful. But it's not about like changing the container. You change first, and then the container will change and evolve, if that makes sense. Okay, dear one, I feel like I just took a fire hose and like shoved it in your face and gave you all kinds of stuff on masterminds. I'd love to hear what you think. So please send me a message on Instagram. Let me know. Share it in your stories if you think this would benefit somebody else. Be sure to tag me. Leave me a review on Apple or Spotify podcasts. Honestly, that helps so much. And lastly, I will give one more plug for my 100K Mastermind Masterclass. It's on my website. I will link it in the show notes. It's $222, and it's going to walk you through the exact steps for creating and launching your own mastermind. Thank you, dear one, for listening, and I will see you in the next episode.